Welcome back to Real Mysteries. Story we have brought for you today is Blank Check, which was released in the year 1994. At the beginning of the story, an 11-year-old boy named Preston Waters is shown, who is living with his parents and two elder brothers. Lives with Preston, but he is always in trouble with his brothers because they both run a small business with the help of their father, and they keep filling all the stuff related to their business in Preston's room, due to which his room starts looking like a warehouse. Preston's father also supports his elder brothers and always asks him to compromise. Recently he brings a computer for his brother's business, and he keeps it in the same room as Preston, but does not know how to run it. He is more expert than me and both of them, and to vent out his anger he beats them a lot with his robotic voice. After this he goes to Amy Cement Park with his friends, because today is the birthday of one of his friend Pasha, but his father he is given only $10 so that he is not able to ride roller coaster rides and high swings with his friends. He has to make do by sitting in small swings that rotate slowly, for which his friends make fun of him a lot. Preston's father Coy, he was not a poor man, he had a good business, but he wanted to inculcate the habit of earning and saving money in his children. Next morning his two brothers go to watch a baseball match, and Preston also wants to go with them, but he does not allow him to do so. He does not take it with him because he does not have money to buy the ticket. His father again starts lecturing him about saving money, but he says that when he does not have money, then where will he save it? Now he confronts his mother about his she gives a gift sent by her grandmother because Preston's birthday was coming up next week. Inside it is a check signed by his grandmother on which she had forgotten to write money. His father says that it is a blank check, and he writes on it. They write down the amount of $11 and give it to him. Preston now decides to save the money and makes a list on the computer in which he writes down that he wants to buy a house of his own. After this he goes to sleep. Now in a town far away from here, in a deserted place, a thug who has escaped from prison, whose name is Clay, is shown. Before going to prison here, he has hidden all the $1 million of his loot. He uses this money to acquire a new identity for himself. He is going to do this so that the police cannot catch him. But the numbers of all these notes are in a serial number and are also in the records of the police. So he goes to the CEO of a big bank named Bitterman, who was earlier in the business of money lending. Ching, who used to be his partner, asks him to exchange these notes for normal notes so that the police cannot suspect him. Bitterman did not want to get into the business of money lending again, so at first he refuses him. But when Chingli threatens to take him to jail along with him for his past exploits, he agrees to exchange the notes. Wingley asks him to give the change notes to one of his men named Juice the next day. While leaving, Bitterman gives him a temporary checkbook so that he can identify his man. Meanwhile, Preston also brings his $11 check to the bank and sees an accountant named Shay and asks him to open a new account for himself. Shay lovingly explains to him that in order to open a new account, He must first deposit at least $200. Preston is very impressed by her loving gesture and says that once he has $200, he will definitely come to open the account. Now his mischievous friend escapes from the bank, snatches his $1 check and starts running away. While chasing him, he falls behind Preston King's car, due to which his bicycle breaks. Seeing this, many people gather there to save him from this trouble. Quing takes out a check from his pocket and is about to write some amount on it. But suddenly he sees a police car and gives Preston the signed blank check and immediately leaves the place. On reaching home, Preston's father, when he sees the broken bicycle, he starts scolding him without asking anything. So in anger, Preston also goes to his room without telling him anything about the accident. At night, when he takes out the check from Kungli and looks at it, he sees he remembers the blank check sent by his grandmother, on which his father had written the amount of $11. At first he wanted to write the amount of $200 and then $1,000, but in the end he typed the entire amount of $1 million on that blank check. He prints it on top and that too in cash. Next day he reaches the bank to get this check cashed. But he is very scared. On top of that, today, instead of 6 rupees, a fat accountant calls him to her counter. And she gets even more scared. She gets nervous when she sees the amount of $1 million written on the accountant's check. She thinks it is a joke. But after looking carefully, she finds that the check is absolutely real, so she takes it with her to Buddier Man's office. Buddier, when the man also sees the full amount of $1 million written on the check with Ching's signature, he thinks that to avoid the attention of the police, Ching has sent this child to collect the money, so he returns it to that fat accountant. Beston thinks he has been caught. But then Buddier Man stops him and starts taking out wads of bills from his hidden cupboard and stuffs the entire $1 million cash in his bag and sends him back from his office. While leaving, Preston also bumps into Kungli's real man Juice. But he does and pay much attention to him, considering him a runaway from school. He then goes to Bitter Man's office and finds Kungli's handwritten check for $1 million. Buddhaman now realizes that he has made a big mistake by giving money to that child. So he runs outside to find him. But by then Preston has gone far away from here. When King realizes, it turns out that Bitter Man has given his money to a child, so he threatens to kill him. But soon he realizes his mistake, that he himself had given it to a child yesterday by signing a blank check. Now he wants to kill him. Could not go to the police to find the child, nor could he place an advertisement in the newspaper. So he, along with Juice and Bitter Man, sets out to find him. On reaching home, Preston dials a property agent and, instead of talking to him through the computer's robotic voice and giving him the name of a businessman worth $5 lakh, he gives him a fake name, Mr. McIntosh. After this, he extracts the number of a car showroom from the newspaper and orders an expensive limousine car in the name of McIntosh. He does this and also hires a driver and asks him to pick him up from home. After Sometime his parents go out, so he jumps from the window of the house and goes to the car, but the driver named Henry picks him up. Understanding this, he asks him to move away from the car. Seeing this, Preston throws a wad of notes towards him. Then the driver silently salutes him and makes him sit in the car and then does not ask him any questions. But still Preston tells him to clear his doubt, that he works for Mr. McIntosh and he has given him this car for work. Now, Henry takes him to all the shopping malls in the city from where Preston buys a lot of expensive clothes for himself. Then he buys TV, toys, video games, and other things for the house. He buys a lot of expensive things on his way out. On his return, he buys himself a huge ice cream, which his parents would never let him eat. Not only this, he also gifts his driver Henry a beautiful watch, for which Henry thanks him. On the way he sees Che, a bank accountant, so he stops the car and tells her that he has arranged for the money, and he will come to the bank to meet her tomorrow to open his account, and tells Che the same story that he told Henry. After he tells Che that he works for a rich businessman named McIntosh, Che comes to a car and starts talking to the man sitting in it about Preston, and here it is revealed that Che is a police agent. The next day, when Preston's father starts going to work, he sees a lot of vehicles parked across the way, some of which are workers, furniture, TV, toys, and a lot of stuff his neighbor Condry Preston is getting all this work done by ordering them. When asked, Preston tells them that like his elder brothers, he has also started earning money, and he works for Mr. McIntosh, who is going to come and live in his neighborhood in a few days. Then he says that he does not know Mr. McIntosh, but Mr. McIntosh knows everything about him and his work. Hearing this, his father becomes happy because with a millionaire, they could have got a lot of benefit from acquaintance. Now, as soon as Preston gives the order to get his car taken out, all the workers immediately leave the way, and his father keeps looking at him with surprise after seeing one thing, crying after this when all the work on the new house is completed. It looks like a typical children's cement park, with a racetrack and many balloon houses and fountains. Apart from this, there is a swimming pool connected to his personal office by a sliding platform, and there are also many video games which he has a lot of fun playing with his driver Henry. On the other hand, Chingly Bitter Man and Chus are shown, who are searching for Preston in children's play and hangout places. But till now, they do not see him anywhere, but by now the news spreads throughout the colony that a rich businessman named McIntosh is going to live in their neighborhood. On the other hand, Che also has some doubts after seeing so much cash continuously coming into the bank. It happens and she goes to the house of this rich son-in-law named McIntosh, but instead of McIntosh, she finds Preston swimming in the swimming pool, who tells her that Mr. McIntosh is very busy and for the next several weeks, hearing that they will not be able to meet him, Che starts to go back, but he says that in McIntosh's absence he takes care of all her work, so if She doesn't mind, he can take her for a tour. Shay agrees and Creston leaves the place, asking her to go out with him in the evening. Now, together with his driver Henry, he prepares to meet Shay. And like a good friend, he keeps playing with her all day. In the evening, he goes to his father's house. He goes and wears a suit and sits with his family for a meeting with Shay. His parents completely believe in his Macintosh story. But still his father starts forbidding him to go out at night. Seeing this, Preston says he was going to show his business plan to Mr. Macintosh today. Hearing this, his father immediately turns around and gives him a copy of his business plan and quickly sends him out. Now at night he takes Shay with him to a fancy restaurant. During dinner, Shay keeps trying to get to know him about Mr. Macintosh. But he turns things around and gives her an expensive necklace, saying it was a gift for her from Mr. Macintosh. Then he takes her to a park amidst the water and starts playing with her. But then while searching for her, Ching-Li, Birdman and Juice come and move forward to catch her. Breaston also sees them and he grabs Shay's hand and runs quickly into his car and drives away before they arrive. Shay enjoys playing with him and thanks him for it. Preston also wanted to meet her again, so he lies to her and declares his birthday to be Mr. Macintosh's birthday and invites her to the party and goes home. The next day he calls a party organizer and talks to her. But she wanted to extort a lot of money from him in the name of a grand party. Presently she takes $100 advance from him and leaves from there. After this he makes a video call and calls Henry to play with him, but Henry is going somewhere with his friends today. So now Preston also takes his two brothers to Macintosh's job. One of them gets his car cleaned, and the other goes bowling and plays baseball, but when they leave, Preston is left alone and no longer enjoys any of his toys and gadgets. He takes a bicycle and goes to the Park of Pars, where he starts missing his old days after seeing children playing, when he also used to come here to play with his friends. Then his eyes fall on a car coming towards him, in which King Bitterman, and as soon as he sees them sucking, Preston starts running away from there with his bicycle. All three of them try hard to catch him, but he fails to catch him and runs away from there by getting their car stuck between other vehicles. But then they are found by Preston's friend. Bach gets caught and starts asking for money from him in exchange for giving his address. But Fungli does not give him any money and he hangs him from the roof of a building and makes him spit out Preston's address. Now the night of the birthday party comes and Preston gets ready and goes to the party. He starts to leave, but while leaving, his two brothers start teasing him and say that Shay only talks to him lovingly because of Macintosh's wealth, otherwise she would not even look at him. Preston becomes sad at this and confronts Henry about this, asks about it. But Henry also says that some people actually talk to him lovingly only because of his money. Hearing this, Preston's heart breaks and he reaches the party with a sad face. But here the security, considering him a child, the guard does not allow him to touch any gift, because they all Wait for Mr. McIntosh today. Beeston also does not like the food here, because he liked pizza and ice cream. But there is none of these here. On the other hand, she and his team is shown, who find out that there is no record of any person named McIntosh, and they guess that he is a criminal who wants to create a new identity for himself with the name McIntosh. So today he comes to the party. They go and make a plan to arrest him. Here, the party organizer hands Preston a bill of $100,000, which he goes to his office to collect. But after coming here, he realizes that he has spent all his money, and now he only has seeing that $400 is left. He sits down on his abandoned chair, worried, when suddenly his father comes there, and mistaking him for Mr. McIntosh on the chair, he says that today is Preston's birthday, so if possible he should send it to him quickly. Then he says that for some time now he has been noticing that Preston spends too much time at work, and it seems as if money has become the most important thing in his life. But today, he holds himself responsible for this, because due to growing up in poverty, he started earning money at a very young age, and he was trying to teach the same thing to his children. But now he has realized that in this way he is teaching his children about their childhood. Hearing these words, Preston's eyes fill with tears, and he feels like hugging his father right now, as if his childhood had been taken away from him. Preston quickly runs outside after them, but until Koo has gone, then he looks for his driver Henry to go after them, but he too is nowhere to be seen along with his car. Seeing this, Preston becomes sad and says to himself that without money, no one is good to anyone. Now he comes back to his office when Shay comes in and tells him that she has come to tell him something very important, otherwise he could get into a lot of trouble. But Preston angrily tells him, saying that he has got his necklace, now what else does he need? He comes and sits in his new house. But after some time, Ching Li's beater man and Juice come and catch him, and Ching Li takes his $1 million from him. He starts asking for it back, but Preston tells him the truth, that he has spent all the money. He is surprised to hear that how can someone spend so much money in just 6 days. After finding out the truth, the bitter man explains to Ching that all he wanted was a new identity so that the police could never catch him, and his difficult task has been made easy by this child. Quillivan is worried that this child can become a hindrance in his path. On hearing this, Preston tries to run away from there. It seems that all 3 of them start chasing him once again. But Preston knows every nook and corner of this house very well, so he keeps bothering them for a long time and makes them run with his various gadgets and toys. He chases him and beats him, but finally the 3 of them catch him, and then Shay goes there with a team of police and points a gun and asks, which of them is McIntosh? Quillivan Kerr, the police will not catch him, so he confronts them on his own. He begins to tell McIntosh, but upon hearing this, the police arrests him for money laundering and fraud. And Bitter Man and Juice are also arrested for supporting him. And Preston is released without any questioning. Sheb is given But he is sad that Sheb cannot become his girlfriend. Sheb lovingly tells him that if he calls her after 10 years from now, she will definitely come to meet him. Now Preston's father comes to him nervously, so he hugs her as soon as he sees them, after which he starts taking her home with him. When he comes out, his driver Henry is also standing there, who had actually gone to get the ice cream of his choice for him now that they can't work together, so they both say goodbye to each other. But before leaving, Henry tells her his feelings that after living with her for the last few days, he has started considering her as his best friend and he will always miss her. When Preston comes home with his father, he sees his mom and his 2 elder brothers standing with his birthday cake, seeing which he becomes very happy. Now when his father asks him to ask for his birthday wish, he becomes emotional, and he says that he doesn't need anything because he always had everything he needed, and that is his family. After this, he happily extinguishes the candles on the cake, and with this the movie ends. Full movie link in description.